It's the Kyle Heimann Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Heimann, and joining us to talk about art and inspirational design and much more is my sister-in-law, Marie Heimann. Thanks for being here, Marie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You are from, people probably know Fondly by now, fondly.com, also Fondly Prints on Facebook and Instagram. If you're not already following that and seeing the stuff, maybe you got a piece of Marie's artwork whenever you signed up for the mailing list by texting the word Advent to 44222. I still have it on my desktop background here. Because, it was an Advent-y thing, but it's kind of timeless.
Yeah.
The God of love and peace will be with you. That's a message we can always remember. People can still get that. It's not Advent, but you can still get that by texting Advent to 44222. But I was kind of curious, do you have any idea how many designs that you have printed? Not just like, I'm sure there's plenty that you design and then never print. Either it didn't turn out how you wanted or...
No, I have no idea. Probably around like 200 or more. I don't know.
Do you have a favorite?
People ask me that a lot, and no, I don't, because each of them are like my prayer. So it's like picking your favorite. Well, I guess people do pick their favorite prayer, but no, I don't have a favorite. I have ones that when they come out of me, I'm so happy to share it with others, but not one that in particular.
How did this get started?
So I was having a difficult pregnancy with my third PO, and I was itching, and I couldn't stop itching. It was really bad on my palms and in my feet, and I had a lot of anxiety that went along with it. And I needed something to distract myself, so I taught myself how to watercolor and how to hand letter. I was really terrible at first, but I noticed when I was lettering these quotes from scripture or different saints' quotes that I felt so much peace, and I stopped itching. And so I just lettered as often as I could so that I could stop itching, because I had 2 other little boys at the time, and it was just like debilitating how much I was itching. So when I started lettering, I was filled with so much peace. I made these pieces of art and started sharing it with others, and I found that when I gave it to other people, they felt the same peace come over them reading these quotes. So I decided to share it with as many people as I could by opening up my shop. I picked this name Fondly because I saw myself as this baby deer that is at the, like that psalm, as the deer longs for flowing streams, so my soul longs for you, O Lord. And that was how I saw myself, was this, this baby deer waiting for the water to satiate its thirst, because I was just feeling so weak and so desperate in that time that I just longed for peace. And I got it when I lettered and made this art. So it really was like my prayer.
Did you think that, I don't usually think of, I'm itchy. I know what'll fix it. Watercoloring. Like, what made you think to try that, or what made you...
Well, I actually started with sewing, so I was not good at it. Same with lettering. I was terrible when I started. And watercolor, I was awful. But I saw so many watercolor paintings growing up. My grandma has a whole collection in her home. Yeah. She had a friend who passed away who was a watercolor artist, and so she got this whole collection. And it mesmerized me, the way that the water mixed with the paint and kind of was like a little bit unpredictable. And that's why I was interested in it. And when I started doing it, I was even more mesmerized by the way that, the painting would take shape, with water, the mixture of water and paint. So I found it very, very peaceful.
Well, in addition to just making art that you can hang up and look at it and say that's beautiful, I think the idea of most of your stuff, not all of it, but most of it, it is these inspirational quotes, whether it's scripture or a saint or Mr. Rogers. It's something that inspires you and something that you want to be reminded of. But also, I feel like it's something that somebody that comes into your home, it's like a message. Like, it's not just art, but also you're telling them, like, this is something that's important to me, and it might inspire them or help them to understand you, your family.
Yeah.
And then you give it to somebody else, and you're inspiring them. It's more than just art, don't you think?
I really truly believe it's your prayer. I believe that our art can be our prayer. And so when you put that up on your wall and someone reads that, you know, maybe a quote from like a saint in the 15th century or something, like they can, it stops them in their tracks because it's inserting itself into their everyday monotonous life. And all of a sudden they read these like transforming words really that carry with it this grace, because it is like these prayerful words that came out of meditation or prayer with God. So yeah, I think it's super powerful. The stories that people have shared with me about how they felt when they received a quote or when they bought one for themselves and put it up. Like one person was going through chemotherapy because they had breast cancer, and she would read "Peace be still," this quote that I had lettered for her over and over again while she was going through chemotherapy, and just talked about how much peace that brought her. So it's pretty powerful.
And in addition to things that might appeal to everybody and kind of these common things, you also do like custom things. So what are some of the things that people have asked you to hand letter for them?
There was one quote about menopause. I can't remember what it was, but that was pretty fun. I love it when it's super specific. It's a little bit like I can't, reproduce this, but it's so a part of their story that I get to be a part of that. It's pretty special. Yeah, the menopause one was definitely the most outlandish.
Where do you get the quotes, whatever you're coming up with? Is it something that you actively go out and seek, or you stumble across?
Some of my best quotes came from custom orders, and I think that's because that is something that was coming up in their prayer, or from a book that they read. Some of them are from books that I've read, or they're just saints or people who have inspired me, and I'll just go on a deep dive for quotes from them that people may not have heard before. Mm-hmm.
We're talking with Marie Heimann from fondly.com. You can find all the prints there, as well as mugs and shirts and such. One of the things that you're doing, which I think this kind of goes against maybe logic. You think somebody who is doing artwork as a ministry, as a business, wouldn't want to teach other people how to do it because then they wouldn't buy your products. But you also teach hand lettering and how to watercolor. How did you get started doing that?
Well, I actually was going through therapy at the same time that I was teaching myself how to watercolor. And my therapist said that, maybe one day you can share this with other people and help them to find peace too. And that never left me, that idea of sharing it. And I know that it's important for us to have creative outlets. So why not give people this one option of having this creative outlet? And the first class I did was actually just someone asked me to do it for them. It wasn't really my idea to begin with. And I did it, and they seemed to get a lot out of it. So I just kept going from there. And now I see the fruit of it. It's so awesome to see people find this new skill that it was worth it to keep going.
Now, do you think that anybody could hand letter or watercolor, or do you have to have a God-given talent that you could nurture into becoming a skill?
I think it's the same as like learning the guitar, learning an instrument. I think anybody can learn an instrument. I think practice is the key to learning any new skill. And I think however passionate you are about it, it'll come through in your work. Like you can do it technically, but I think when people read your quotes and your lettering, then they'll feel something if you were feeling something when you did it.
Imagine like the whole 10,000 hour rule.
I don't know that rule.
It's like the people that are virtuosos and everything, they've put in 10,000 hours of work. Nobody becomes an expert violinist because of their parents, their genes or something like that. It's because they put in the work. So whenever you're teaching people how to hand letter, how do you manage expectations of like, this isn't going to be perfect in this 2-hour workshop?
Yeah, it's like the greatest challenge for sure, because people get so frustrated instantly. And the first thing I say is be patient with yourself. Practice makes progress, and go slow.
That sounds more realistic than practice makes perfect.
Exactly. When you tell people that, you're setting them up for failure for sure,
Right.
you know? So, I literally just repeat those things. I feel like that's like 90% of the class is just telling people, go slow, be patient with yourself. Practice makes progress, because people just want to have it down. I think because when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's kind of easy. I could do that. And you find out it's actually a little challenging, and it takes work and time and effort. I was terrible when I started out, but it does get better.
Have you seen people that have taken your workshop to actually turn it into really actually good art?
Yeah, and I'm really pumped. There's this I think she's around 12 or 13-year-old girl who I'm going to do private lessons with now. Tonight, actually. And she started with like a workshop, and she's gotten really good, and she started to sell her stuff. And I'm really excited to see her through the next stages of development. And yeah, there's probably some more out there that I haven't seen their work, but it's rewarding to get to see, the fruits of that.
And you have a workshop coming up this weekend. People can still sign up for it?
Yeah, today's the last day, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's at Bookhouse Studio, which is in like the East State Village area. So if you go to bookhousestudio.com, I think you can find the class to register there. It's this Saturday.
Also, you've been posting it on your social media, so people can find links there as well.
Sure.
Fondly.com or Fondly Prints on Facebook and Instagram. And what can people expect at a workshop? Because when I see, I don't know, the way you talk about the workshops and then pictures and stuff that you post, it looks like it's just as much of a workshop as it is maybe a party a little bit too. It's like a little social event and stuff like that. So what do you expect?
There's like some local food. Bird and Cleaver is going to have some food there. Local coffee. Yellow Cup Coffee is a local roaster. And yeah, you'll meet some new people, and basically it's like mostly hand lettering, and then at the end I do a little bit of watercolor. And it's not like those like paint and sip classes where like you just watch the instructor and you literally do what they do. I'm just going to give instruction, and then I'll guide you through it, but you're going to have your own quote and your own, whatever illustration you want to put on there. And I'm going to guide you through that. So it's like you take your own piece of work home. So each person's is different, which I think is more appropriate because we all have different expressions of art.
So do people come in with a quote in mind, or do they get there and be like, oh, I'm supposed to come up with a quote. Let me think about it.
Yeah, a quote in mind. And then I'll have some quotes too for inspiration in case, they're like, I just couldn't find a good quote, which happens.
Yeah. And then materials also come with it?
I provide materials. You take them to lettering pens. Since the class is mostly lettering, I don't provide watercolor or anything, but you have it there while you're at the class. You just don't take it home with you. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. So you can check out fondly.com again for not just information about that workshop, but also if you're like, I don't want to actually do the work. I'd rather just pay somebody else to do it. You can get all the stuff there at fondly.com. And also, as we said, Fondly Prints on Facebook and Instagram. You can scroll through all the kinds of pretty images of watercolors and hand lettering that you've done, as well as images of your kids, my nephews.
Lots of them.
All right. Thanks, Marie. Appreciate it.
Thank you.